I've looked up a lot of what you've done. I've watched how you direct a lot. And one of the songs that you like to do, apparently, at festivals or honor groups is the song Rest
Mhm.
by Frank Ticheli. What is it about that piece that draws you back to it?
um, I first heard Frank do that with an ensemble many years ago, and sat in the audience. It was a concert that Frank and I were both conducting on, and I sat in the audience waiting for my pieces and watched Frank do this, and my jaw went to the floor and pretty much has stayed there ever since. Um, I feel that that piece um, is is almost a direct connection when played well and sensitively and emotionally, which I'm not sure if one could help but do that. It's such a powerful piece. But I believe it's a direct connection to those who play it and those who hear it. It's almost as if everyone's arm in arm, locked together. It is one of the most powerful pieces that I know. It is one of the most sensitive pieces. I think one aspect I love of it is the enormity of certain moments within the piece, and then where it comes down to moments which are almost chamber-esque in how small and dainty and delicate they are. And it's that raw power in some places and that incredible elegance in others. But I think it's the poem that it is based upon, and how Frank was able to paint it so magnificently. That is that way of making everyone feel it. It's not a piece that one has to sell. It's not one where you have to coax students into saying, come on, give it a try. You're going to love this eventually, which we've all been in. We've all had that situation, trying to get kids to play a piece or to buy into it. It's not one. This is a piece that once it starts to come together and students get a sense of what it is, they want to play it as much as we would. And I think it's the incredible intensity of the emotional portrayal of this piece, especially bound to that text.
I don't think it's not fair to say this, but I don't think that all pieces that are, because it was originally a choral piece that he wrote, and then he
Right.
transcribed it for band. Not it doesn't
Mhm.
always work well when that happens, but that piece for some reason, and he changed it a little bit, but it really
Mhm.
translated well into the band world per se. But as I've seen you do that piece, your interpretation seems to not always be the same every time that you've done it with a group. Sometimes it seems that you're changing some things that you did in one group but don't do in another. How do you do that? Do you feel like your interpretation changes?
I would hope it would change somewhat, still obviously honoring, hopefully, the intentions of the composer. Um, I think it does, depending on the group that one's conducting, depending on the size of the ensemble, the strength of the ensemble, the place we're performing in. I think all of those variables do allow for some change, to some small degree. But I remember once sharing a conference with Frank, and we were walking to lunch. And I vividly remember where we were. And we were going up the steps, and Frank had just done a piece. I forget which piece it was of his. It wasn't Rest, it was another one that I had conducted several times. And as we're walking up the steps, I said, Frank, I owe you a giant apology. And he looked shocked at me. And I said, yeah. He said, what for? And I said, I have been doing that piece all wrong. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, and I mentioned three places in the piece that he did radically different than I had thought to do. And he said, oh, do you mean here? And he said which it was. And then he said, and then there. And I said, yep. And he said, and then there. I said, yes. And he said, oh, yeah. No, you're doing it the way I wrote it. I just do it differently. And I said, which is right? And he said, exactly. And I thought, okay. He said, you do what you think. And I said, okay. So that has always allowed me to think to myself, I hear his words in the back of my head. As long as I think I'm bringing honor to the piece and respecting his wishes, but sometimes it is the subtleties of what's going on in front of me.